Well, welcome to MissouriNet.com. We've got Mizzou and Vandy this week. It's homecoming for the Tigers, and this is a game that I'm sure Tiger fans you're looking at and saying this is a sure W, as the Commodores are 0-4, going through a transition. And joining us is Chris Lee from VandySports.com. Chris, I tried getting you on. The way the schedules were working out, Vandy was playing South Carolina right before the Tigers went down there, and then Vandy had to take on Georgia, and I tried to get you on each week to preview, and there were so many things going on, and I had to keep canceling on you, so I'm happy that you're finally able to come and join us and talk about the team that you cover, the Vandy Commodores.
Yeah, Bill, these things are always fun, and it's great to join. I wish I had a little more to talk about in a pleasant way, but it is what it is, and we do our jobs regardless.
Before we get into the game and the matchup, because I want to talk about a couple of key matchups and some things that maybe Mizzou fans can look for, because you've got some talented players still on that roster. Talk about Derek Mason, head coach. How are things going in terms of the type of coach that he is? And I know there's a little bit of a transition there. Just a real quick summary of the team so far, and more particular, Coach Mason.
It's been a tough year, Bill. I mean, we knew that changing from a 4-3 to a 3-4 would be difficult, but he's a very good defensive mind. He had some talent on this team, a lot of kids coming back, a lot of kids that have made some big plays the last 2 years as Vandy finished in the top 25 both years. But the transition has just proven to be too tough. I think you've seen a lot of disorganization. You've seen a coach who's kind of learning on the fly, it seems. And, at this point, Vanderbilt's got 2 wins. One's over a bad UMass team by a field goal, and another one is by a point over Charleston Southern, which is an FCS team. So it has been a very, very rocky start. You're right. There's some talent. Vegas had the over-under on wins for this team for 6 coming in. So it's been a disappointing start for sure.
All right, let's talk about a couple of the matchups. Homecoming at Faurot Field, a 3 p.m. kick. We know, Mizzou fans know, about Marcus Murphy, one of the key players that bailed out their win against Florida. And I know when you look at the final score, you say, well, bail out. I mean, it was a blowout. But we know of the offensive struggles, but he had the 99-yard kickoff return to start the game, 82-yard punt return. There's a return guy, though, for Vandy by the name of Darius Sims, and I think he's a sophomore cornerback. Is that correct, Chris?
True sophomore, that's correct.
All right, and his numbers, I'm going to read these for you right now. Here's Marcus Murphy with kickoff returns, 10 returns, averaging 34.3 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sims, 14 kick returns, a 30.8 average, so just under, and also 2 touchdowns, including a 100-yarder this season. So talk about Sims and the return game, because field position, depending on where you start, that can play a big part in any football game.
Well, you're also going to see Darius Sims returning punts this week, which we have not seen at all. So I'm anxious to see that. Vanderbilt really, Bill, the offense has been beyond pathetic. And so Vanderbilt's got to find a way to get points. I mean, Darius Sims is their leading scorer. Kickers aside, he's run back an interception for a score and 2 kickoffs for scores. The problem is right now, everybody knows he's really about their only real threat to put points on the board. They're just not kicking him in the ball. But he is a dynamic return man when he gets the ball in his hands. Derek Mason compared him to Marcus Murphy, and I think in terms of production they've gotten in the return game, of course Murphy's proven he can do it as a punt returner, and Sims has not yet, so you've got to give Murphy the edge there, because he's a kid that can score from all over the field in so many different ways. But I think that's a pretty good comparison just in terms of a kid who's explosive, and you don't want to see him with the ball in his hands if you're that other team.
This could be a game, Chris, where both teams end up kicking away from these guys, and both teams might be starting at their own 30 or 35 anyway, just to stay away from that long punt return or kick return and giving up a quick 6 points.
Right now, honestly, if I'm the defense or the coach of either team, I'm looking at my opponent, I'm going, those are kids I don't want to see with the ball in their hands, because right now Missouri's offense and Vandy's, neither of them been the big threat to put points on the board. I think in a game that's probably going to be a low-scoring game, you've got to minimize what the other team can do and do well. And I think if you're Derek Mason or you're Derek Tinkle, you're thinking long and hard before you let either Marcus Murphy or Darius Sims touch the ball if you can help it.
We're talking with Chris Lee of VandySports.com. Is Sims also their top cornerback? In other words, will he be covering Bud Sasser, and does he go a lot of one-on-one with the top receivers?
I'm not sure we'll see him at all on defense. It's been kind of a mystery because every week at the press conference, Derek Mason says, we've got to get him the ball more. That they know he's one of the few guys on that team that can score. And so what you have seen is, again, teams kicking away from him. Well, Derek said, we're going to put him on offense and give him some touches. And he gets maybe one touch a week. And every week he comes to the press conference on Tuesday and says, well, we got to get Darius more touches. Well, this movie's played out for a month now, and when we all just kind of look at the press conference and say, well, that's worthless because it's the same thing every week. That they appear, Bill, to have taken him off cornerback for the time being, which is a little bit strange unless you're planning on getting him more offensive touches because, again, he's got a pick six against Kentucky. They only scored that game for Vandy that day. I don't know what they're going to do with him for sure because, again, you can't trust what they say necessarily. But whether it's defense, offense, special teams, you've got to get that kid on the field as much as humanly possible, and I think they've failed in that regard.
Well, these are two guys. When you talk about Murphy and Sims, there's a lot of similarities because we've heard from the Mizzou coaches they've got to get the ball into the hands of Murphy a little bit more. Now, obviously, on special teams, but they were going to use him a little bit at wide receiver. I don't think they've used him as much. The other comparison, and it'll be real easy for you to follow Mizzou fans, is Darius Sims is also number 6 for the Commodores.
Yeah.
So pay attention to that matchup. That'll be a good one. All right, Chris, one more thing, and then we'll let you go. I know that Coach Mason has a lot of respect, and I think a lot of people in the SEC now getting a lot of respect for Shane Ray on that defensive line for Mizzou. You've got a pretty good offensive lineman in Andrew Jelk, 6'6", 305 pounds, and it sounds like, at least from what I heard from Coach Mason, is that this is going to be the matchup and that it's going to be his responsibility to try to slow down Shane Ray. Can you tell us a little bit about the offensive line, in particular Jelks?
Yeah, Derek Mason singled that matchup out on Tuesday's press conference for good reason. Jelks is probably their best offensive lineman. Redshirted 2 years ago, was one of the most highly recruited players in the state of Tennessee. And Vandy doesn't usually go to head with Tennessee and win battles in the state, but they did win that one. Vanderbilt gives him a red shirt, and then he comes out last year, ends up being their starting right tackle in the year, moved to left tackle with Wes Johnson gone. He's now with the New York Jets. But anyway, Jelks is a really good player. I mean, I guess he's been one of the brighter spots on the offense this year. He's a kid that they think has maybe got NFL-type talent. The line this year, Bill, has been a little disappointing at times. They've had a lot of trouble on the right side. So I know Missouri's got 2 bookends that are pretty good. I think that's maybe one of the bigger concerns for Vanderbilt is that front side pressure to the quarterback's face. So that's one thing I'm going to be watching. They've got some penalties. Joe Townsend, their center, is a really good, experienced player. More starts with anybody on the team. He had some penalty troubles early in the season. Those are starting to die down a little bit. But it's not a line, Bill. This is supposed to be a strength of the team. It's not really a line that's opened up a ton of creases in the running game in terms of, drive a truck through them like you see at Georgia and Alabama and some of those places. That's one thing we're going to be watching the second half to see if Vanderbilt's offensive line can perform a little bit better than expected because I think we all thought we'd see better things out of it.
Well, 2 teams that sound similar. Now, maybe the issues for Vandy are a little more extreme than Mizzou, but offensive line issues, good special teams, and just trying to find themselves offensively. So we'll see how this plays out. I know Mizzou fans expecting a win here, and for the Tigers' sake, I mean they've got to win out. They've got to think about winning out if they want a shot at the SEC East. Chris Lee from VanSports.com. You're also doing a radio show. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm on Nashville Sports Radio every week. That's 95.9 FM in Nashville or 560 AM. You can hear me at NashvilleSportsOriginal.com online. I'm on 2 to 4 Central every day. We talk college sports. We talk a lot of Missouri, actually. We talk a lot of SEC. I've had our buddy Gabe DeArmond of Power Mizzou on a few times. So anyway, we do talk Missouri. So Tiger fans, if you want to get some good SEC talk, good, and even across the nation, too, good reason to listen to me.
Yeah, that's right. You're part of the Rivals group, aren't you?
That's well, yeah. The website I do is the radio station is a different thing, but
right.
Yeah, that's I've got my hand in 2 things now.
Yeah, that's good, keeping you busy. Well, listen, as I told you, I had to bail on you a couple of times. I had my wife that had knee surgery, and then there were things popping up here at work, and then we've got 2 teams battling for the World Series, and I kept putting you off. And that, Chris isn't going to answer my emails anymore if I keep doing this to him. So I appreciate you hanging with me, and it's always a pleasure to talk with you and visit with you.
Bill, I always answer your emails, my man. It's always fun every time I come on. You give me a shout anytime. I love to talk SEC, Vanderbilt aside. Anything you want, you just give me a call. We'll do this again.
Well, that's great. You're always a great guest, and we'll have you on more throughout the season here too, and maybe even some basketball.
And great luck for the Royals, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's people are excited here. It's I think even some of the Cardinal fans, and I mentioned this in our I think even some of the Cardinal fans who have held a grudge against the Royals since 1985 when the Royals beat them in the World Series, they're even pulling for them. So they're kind of like the national darlings, I guess, in baseball.
As a kid, I grew up. I remember Frank White and Amos Otis and George Brett and all those pitchers they had, and just the Royals had such a dynasty from the mid '70s to the mid '80s. You hate to see a town where baseball is so important, the fans are so good, where they just fall into a 3-decade period of irrelevancy. So I'm rooting for the Royals just for that alone, because I know those fans deserve it.
Yeah, I think they got a lot of fans around the country too, so that's good. Yeah, I know you're a big baseball guy. I know you're looking forward to that. First pitch in February, right, for Vandy?
That's right, and defending national champions. That's going to be a lot. And you know what, Bill? If you thought they were good last year, just wait. That was a team that peaked at the end of the year. They may have a weekend rotation that comprised of 3 first-rounders. They've got a second baseman named Dansby Swanson, who's the MVP of the College World Series. Mm-hmm. He's moving to short. He's probably going to be a top half of the first-rounders. You could see 4 first-rounders leaving Vandy next year.
Wow, that's amazing. I can see why you're excited. Yeah, so it's all.
Oh, yeah, it's fun.
There's some good stuff there at Vandy, no doubt about it. All right, Chris Lee, thanks for joining us, and thanks for watching us here. You can follow Mizzou football coverage at MissouriNet.com. Have a great day.